Hey there, good looking people. This is traditionally a family friendly podcast, and this week's episode of Boy Meets World was originally intended for a more mature teenage audience, and so it dives into some subject matter that is not intended for younger kids. And so rather than shy away from that, we decided to tackle that head on. So the subject matter of this week's podcast is going to be intended for that same type of an audience, teenagers, adults. So if you regularly listen with younger kids, I would encourage you to listen to this first before listening to it with them, because it will bring up a lot of heavy topics, and we want you to be prepared to answer some questions that might come up if you listen with your kids. So thank you so much for listening, and we just wanted to let you know ahead of time. Thanks. All right, I think this is our intro. When these dads meet world, watching Boy Meets World. We grew up on the show, now we have kids and host a podcast. We watch each episode and then share our thoughts and grades. When these dads meet world.
They want you to take the roles.
Welcome back to Dads Meet World, your weekly dive into Boy Meets World, where a couple of dads like to look back at a show from 30 years ago and give you spoiler-filled reviews and some perspective as a couple of dads of, at least on one end, teenagers, and on both ends, kids who want to be teenagers. I am dad number one, and I am joined around the virtual microphone this week by a veritable cornucopia of guest hosts. So let's start with dad number two.
Oh, yes, I am dad number two, the pooper scooper, here to bring some kindness this week.
Thank you, Tyler. And we are in our special episode format, which means we are joined by both moms. So, moms, why don't you say hello? We'll start with, Tyler, we'll start on your end.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
Yes, and behind me, and won't be showing up in the video portion of our podcast, under threat of murder for me.
That is not quite true, but hi, I'm Kelly. I put up with Brett.
But we do thank the moms very much for joining us this week. If you are watching along with us as we explore season 4, you know what you're in for this week. And if you listened and paid attention to the intro at the very beginning of this episode, you know that this week's content is quite heavy. And so we asked the moms on not just to get a fuller perspective as parents, but our wives both have some unique skills and qualifications. So why don't we start with Kelly? What kind of special skills and qualifications do you have that we invited you on to share from?
I was told I was invited because I am a licensed social worker in the state of Ohio.
Yes. And Sarah, I believe Tyler dangled a particular invitation to you.
Yes, he did say I have a particular skill set. I work with adults with intellectual developmental disabilities, so not on a children's perspective, but I deal a lot with these heavy issues with my clientele, and I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you have had to fill out reports, and
I just filled one out today.
Right. So it's not that uncommon for you to say to me, "I filled out another report today." Like nothing that it's never as bad as what happens in this episode, but there's just things that come up, and you're told you have no choice, and that's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
And so anyone who's been listening for any length of time knows that Tyler and I both have experience as youth pastors, current and former. And this particular episode brings up, at least for me, some semblance of memories. I know I've worked with teenagers who came from very rough homes. Tyler, I'm sure you've had your share of teenagers that came from rough homes as well. And so the content of this episode really hits hard.
Yes, and speaking of rough homes, we are joined by our puppy dog, Buddy Jones, because we're wondering if the earthquake has affected him in some way that can affect us, and he's been very clingy today, so he is literally like inches away from the microphone. So.
Hi, Buddy Jones.
So if any
you hear some
panting
heavy
comes
dog
up on the
breathing.
recording, it is Buddy.
Yes, if any, yes.
Because I can't hear it on my end, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Yes.
Well, let's say we just dive right in. And I set up, normally we go through and we go really minute by minute. We get into the real minutia, but we want to take a little bit different. We're going to paint in some broader strokes and dive into some more of the themes of this episode for the good looking people. There's only one A plot. There's not a B plot that happens. It's simply one plot that dovetails into the other. It's Cory's story that dovetails right into Shawn's. We don't have a goofy Eric subplot that we get to talk through, and there's very little levity. So we're not going to go minute by minute, scene by scene. I'm just going to go very brief summary, and we'll stop at a few points here and there and really dive into some of these tougher subjects. But we will start with our traditional synopsis and all that fun information for you here at the top, though, good-looking people. So we are looking at the 8th episode of Season 4, Dangerous Secret. So when Cory discovers that attractive Claire has been sleeping over at Shawn's place, he jumps to the obvious conclusion, especially when Shawn swears him to secrecy. But Cory learns that they may have a much more serious, much more dangerous problem. It's written by Jeff C. Sherman. This is the 11th of 14 episodes he'll write. He wrote On the Fence, The Fugitive, Sister Teresa, Life Lessons, and this season, Shallow Boy. So he's got some range there. Directed by Jeff McCracken. Originally aired November 8th, 1996. Currently enjoys an 8.6 IMDb rating. Now, I usually ask Tyler. I'm going to ask the moms too. Last week, our Nielsen rating for our episode was 14.8. 14.8 million people tuned in on a Friday night in 1996. What do you think our Nielsen rating was for Dangerous Secret, second week of November 1996?
Just throw out a number. It doesn't matter. You're going to be wrong.
15.
That's a good call.
I hear 15. What else we got?
I was going to say 16.
16.
I mean, there is actual guest star power, and I would have think they would have advertised this episode. So I'm going to go with probably 12.
12. One of you three nailed it exactly. It's not Tyler.
Ooh.
The
It's
ratings
never me. I'm bad
for
at
this
this.
episode, this is the second highest rated episode of the season. The only one that beat it in the ratings was Shallow Boy. This episode pulled in a 16.0 rating.
Woo! I never
Nice.
win.
Yeah.
That's great.
Congratulations.
Hey, thanks.
All right. So we're going to start off with Cory visiting Shawn's trailer after dark. He is pounding on the door, trying to get his buddy to wake up. He's sick, bringing him all kinds of stuff to take care of him, vaporizer, flowers to make him feel nice. And Shawn's trying to rush him out because the sickness is taking over. We must note Chet and Werner are out of town. We assume they're on some romantic getaway. But Cory very quickly finds out that Claire, a classmate, is there with Shawn. And it's a very quick out from the this tag. Now, this Claire Ferguson is portrayed by Ariana Richards. First and only time we'll see her in Boy Meets World. Only 28 acting credits to her name, including shows like Golden Girls, Empty Nest, Tremors. But her biggest claim to fame was This Is Lex from Jurassic Park and the Lost World.
You start saying, "This is Lex." I'm like, what is that?
No, this is the main preteen girl lead from Jurassic Park.
She's a hacker.
So this is 3 years after Jurassic Park. Yeah. Ariana actually retired from acting in 2001 to focus on her art career. So she hasn't been on camera since then. Well, she came out of retirement once for a TV movie. So Shawn is very quick to inform Cory that this is not what he thinks and swears him to secrecy. So, moms, what would you think if you encountered this type of a situation? First of all, how comfortable would you be letting your teenage son stay at home during the week by themselves?
Not.
Not by themselves. We have teens that are close in age that we have let stay by themselves with grandparents a few doors down. But definitely
Right, but
not
then they
by
kind
themselves.
of like monitor each other.
They do, exactly. It's not one
They
kid.
tattle on each other.
They do, absolutely. Right. So, but yeah, but if it was one child, no, I would not be comfortable with that.
No, I don't think I would be either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the next day we're going to visit Chubby's, and Shawn and Cory are doing some homework, and Cory is really trying to pry some more information out of Shawn, because clearly he's under the impression that that Shawn and Claire slept together.
Well, Cory's having a full-blown just
this is
cannot
a Cory
do anything
meltdown.
else. This is almost a Charles Boyle meltdown.
Almost. Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Sarah's been
I'm
rewatching
rewatching it.
Great show.
Yes. So, yeah, Cory really can't think of anything else beyond his buddy and Claire. And here he is with Topanga, who they've been dating since practically in diapers, and Shawn with this girl that he barely knows. And Cory is convinced that Shawn has this idea. Bless you. Shawn has this idea that really, if Shawn can do this, then it's time for me and Topanga to take that next step.
Because obviously everyone matures on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. These are 15-year-olds. You know, it's a couple of 15-year-old boys, and I'd say that's probably a natural thought process for Cory to go through, wouldn't you?
I mean, for a 15-year-old boy, yeah.
Yeah. You know, just a few seasons ago, we were discussing how Cory was thinking that girls were complete ick, and now is having thoughts of, well, should I be doing X, Y, and Z with now Topanga?
Let me touch something.
That's later.
There were a couple seasons from that. Let me touch something. Oh, yes. So
Sex. We're talking about sex. Let's get the word out of the way. It's sex. We're talking about it. We're being direct. We're not going around it. This is...
Yes.
Sorry. I feel like they need to be stated. We're talking about
smooth transitions here on Dads Meet World. We're a bull in a china shop.
Yes.
And
Cory
speaking
thinks
of
Shawn's
sex,
having sex. He wants to have sex too.
speaking of sex, Cory's going to invite Topanga over for a date, which Cory's clearly nervous about. Hello, may I take your coat? You like my outfit? Oh, these old
All
things.
these old things.
Well, Cory doesn't want to go out and watch a movie. He wants to invite Topanga up to his room to check out his new CD changer, which, complete side note, that's not a CD changer. That's one disc.
Oh, stop it. You know, I
No,
will say,
I do agree with him on that. That's not a CG change.
at this point in the episode, Cory believes this is a regular episode. There's nothing going on in this episode. It's not a special episode. It's just him trying to progress things in his relationship with Topanga, where they've been together forever, apparently.
Exactly. Yes. The retcons begin. But as they walk in, Cory's been setting up for a seance or something with a room full of candles. And very nervously directs Topanga to
And a plate of grapes.
sit on the... And a plate of grapes. Yes, the grapes.
I was like, what are we doing with the grapes?
What are the grapes for?
Okay, now, in fairness, though, Cory and Shawn have an obsession with grapes being romantic. And
They do.
this might be the first reference, but they reference this a
I'm-
lot in the future.
I must have missed that because I was like, what is up with these grapes?
Well, you know, grapes in the 90s, grapes were actually they were tied very much to romance. You would feed your partner grapes.
Yeah, I was thinking of like Roman times.
Yeah.
Laying on the
Yeah,
couches
that's what I was
with
thinking of,
togas and
I don't know how we got to grapes instead of strawberries for Boy Meets World, but that's where the romance went. Maybe strawberries were too strong of a message for Friday night.
Could be.
But
Getting a little
yeah,
PG-13.
Cory starts some music. Turns out that's Morgan's CD, and that does not set the appropriate mood. So that CD goes out the window, and
As
they start
somebody
another
who
CD.
has taught daycare, I have never heard that song before.
no.
Yes,
Like, I've kids.
thinly
I've taught
veiled
kids,
Barney.
Never heard that song before.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a thinly veiled Barney CD, apparently.
Yeah.
Second CD is apparently one that came with Amy's Volvo. And after a couple of jokes, we get to some serious necking, as we'll call it. And this is where my first clip for our episode will come up.
What exactly did you think was going to happen here?
Topanga, you're talking to me like I planned this.
Cory, there's a bowl of grapes on the bed.
Why would you say that? Grapes. Topanga, come on. I'm trying so hard here.
To do what?
Well, I just think we're old enough.
Old enough to do what?
Well, I just think we're old enough like Shawn.
Shawn, what does he have to do with this?
No, nothing. Not a thing in the world. Look, Shawn had a girl stay over last night, and he hardly even knows her. But you and I, we've known each other all our lives, and you're my girlfriend, and I love you. And, I mean, we should be at, like, ninth base by now.
Why? So you can keep up with your buddy?
No. I just think my buddy had a good idea this time.
I think we got some peer pressure there.
I don't think it was peer pressure. I think it was Cory pressure.
Yes.
Self pressure.
So, yes.
Trying to keep up with his friend. Or so he thinks.
And Cory's always, through 4 seasons, well, 3.5 at this point, Cory's always felt like he's a step or two behind Shawn anyway.
Right.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
And Shawn's the cool friend that he looks up to and wants to be like, that he emulates. And we don't see it as much in season 4, but it's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it always is there in some level.
Mm-hmm. Now, Tyler, refresh our memory. Have we really seen a sex talk with Alan and Cory up to this point?
No. There's been no definitive talk. Because in the episode when they had the "Your Body is Changing" telegram, Miss Teenager, All they really talked
Famous
about
teenager.
was dating and how you shouldn't date someone for the wrong reasons and to try to keep up with somebody. But at no point on camera have we had Alan sit him down and explain sex. The closest we've gotten at this point is
was
anything
delayed,
really that
dear.
Eric has told him.
Right.
But thank you.
Yeah. and there's some hints that we'll get to that about Eric, but this is not a successful night for Cory. This is not a good night for Cory and Topanga. In fact, this is a downright disastrous night. Cory throws himself out of the house, or at least out of.
Can we just discuss the fact?
And throws a CD.
Yes. Cory is kissing Topanga and then immediately apparently tries to go for her bra, is the implication.
I did not read that.
He reached his hand behind her shirt and she said, "What do you expect to happen?"
I was not paying attention.
I know you were reading something.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess my thing is that like I don't think anyone has told him anything yet, because it's a very forward, aggressive move to be doing onto someone you have not done that to before. So, and the implication is that they only have really kissed, maybe make out, but nothing intense.
Mm-hmm. So let's put it out there. Teens and sex. Good idea, bad idea?
Horrible idea.
Bad idea.
Can you ladies elaborate, please?
I mean, I think there should be. I am not abstinence only education. I think they should get a very well-rounded education on it, particularly how it can mess up your life. Mm-hmm. And, well, even it can set your goals back, or you might not be ready and you lose a part of yourself to somebody whenever you're that young.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you're older, like. But I think they need to be educated, because just them having sex is a bad idea.
Implication that there is no true good, at least in our state, as of when we were growing up, sex education in school.
I mean, you got a bag of M&Ms and you got a bunch of STDs by switching M&Ms around, like.
I remember that analogy.
Yes.
No, I remember that one.
Yeah. Everybody got a bag of M&Ms. You switched them around. That's how you got a bunch of STDs. But the people with the brown M&Ms, they were abstinent.
What about you, Kelly?
Kelly, what are your thoughts?
Especially as a mom with teenagers.
The thing Sure, I know, right? The thing I was thinking about the most during that scene was if people, especially teenagers, but even adults, like if you can't even have a conversation about sex and actually like talk about it, you're not ready to engage in any of the physical activity.
Exactly. Yes.
And Cory didn't even know, like, he knows what sex is, but he's clueless as to just which he should be, the physical nature of everything. So,
right.
But yeah, he couldn't even say it to Topanga. He couldn't even say anything besides kissing to her with any words. And it's like, yeah, that should be a red flag to other people in relationships, just that you're not ready.
You're not comfortable enough to even communicate.
Right.
You're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because you're giving a whole lot more of yourself to somebody through sex than just kissing.
Yep, absolutely.
I believe a couple seasons ago we actually had Cory and Topanga go through what it would be like if they had overnight and what the social stigma of that would have been. But yeah, I don't think a lot of that stuck, since he's not able to really express what's really in his head.
Well, and like you said, it's about trying to keep up with Shawn and hormones. That's the other part of it. Like, of course, he's attracted to his girlfriend, and 15-year-olds don't have the capacity yet to understand fully the feelings that they're having.
You got 10 years until your brain's fully formed, at least.
They don't even have the capacity to fully understand that everybody's maturing at different rates.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
that what their friends feel comfortable doing or maturity-wise is nowhere near where they are.
Mhm.
And it's okay.
Did any of you feel that pressure to go in that direction?
I'll get out of the way. I didn't, but that's because I didn't date anyone until I was a senior in high school.
Wasn't on date till he was 16. I stand by. We should have that rule.
Yeah, I didn't date anyone until I was a senior in high school.
Remember when
and
Abby said she wouldn't date anyone until she's married
I
or until
remember
she's like
that.
in her 30s or something? That was great.
Yeah, it was so great. Those were the days. Get it in writing if your boys say stuff like that.
Well, no, Grayson's just gonna live with us. That's what he tells me.
Yeah, so I didn't I didn't have that type of pressure myself, where I felt like I was competing with others so much. So no, I didn't. But I was an oddity.
I mean, I don't know that I necessarily felt the pressure to have sex, but the pressure to keep up with having boyfriends or having a boyfriend and, just doing like
Sexual
kissing.
things with boyfriends.
No, not like that.
No,
But
I'm-
like kissing or like, I don't know. Yeah. But it was like whenever I was
Right.
like older in high school, not when I was 15, but like 17.
What about you, Tyler?
Kelly. No, I want you first.
I was definitely in Cory's boat as a teenager, trying to not necessarily keep up with friends, but I felt that I needed a boyfriend in order to have worth. And
Mhm.
And I don't think a boy ever pressured me to do anything that I did not want to do, but I definitely engaged in activity a lot sooner than I wish I did.
Engaged in things that I wish I would have waited for.
Yep, absolutely.
I figured I should go last because I probably was the most peer pressured of all of us and then fell into peer pressure. Because I remember in 7th grade realizing that all of my friends at least had a girlfriend at some point and feeling like, oh, how come I don't have one?
Right.
And it's still taking being in 8th grade to have a girlfriend. It only lasted 2 weeks. So, that was a
That's not bad
romance.
for 8th grade, Tyler.
Yeah.
2 weeks is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it really was in 9th grade because I had friends who I knew were having sex in middle school, but I was like, whatever, that's not me. Like, I'm not worried about that. But I remember in 9th grade, there was a guy who was similar to me in walking a Christian faith and heard rumors that he was having sex with an older girlfriend. And I was like, oh, does that mean all girls are expecting me to want to do that as well? including ones who claim to be Christian. Like, that doesn't seem right and accurate to what we're believing in. But okay, if that's what we're supposed to. But it never happened. But just feeling that pressure to do so was definitely intense. But luckily, things kind of changed as I got deeper into my ninth grade year, and then my sophomore year, I got a lot of peer pressure from adults saying, "Don't be dumb," and so that really helped me.
Didn't stop you from having a bunch of girlfriends, though.
Bunch of girlfriends is different than having sex.
Yeah, but it was more Cory and Topanga level. It's okay.
Right, but I think the big thing for us to discuss is the simple fact that Cory did not discuss with Topanga what he was expecting in that night and what his hopes were for the relationship as they move forward. He kind of unilaterally decided, this is what I want, not realizing of what that means.
Yes. The advice that he gets from Feeney in the next scene of communication is the biggest thing that he barrels through. And he didn't say anything to Topanga about any of that. You're exactly right.
Well, and just one last comment, I guess, is, do we think Cory actually had like a condom sitting there just in case? Because that's important.
Well, he did have grapes. He clearly thought a lot of things through. He had grapes and about 1,200 candles.
I don't think he thought a condom through.
I don't think
he
so.
Didn't check the CD.
I don't think so.
He didn't check the CD first.
He did not check the CD. This is a half-baked plan.
He just
he
got
set
the
the
things
mood,
he could
but
get around the house. Those candles didn't come from the store. They just came from downstairs.
Right. Well, and I guess the last piece of advice I could say on our end is that we talk about all the time is communication and just accepting that these things take time and allowing that time to be there. And I understand that for teenagers, especially if you're listening to us good-looking people who are teenagers, I understand that time is of the essence, and it feels like, you know, you have to act now on every single thought you have, but truly waiting and allowing yourself to have a communication with a partner makes it so much better. Many relationships I think we have seen through different friends over the years, just of people that they would kind of, for lack of words, go through and just felt like they never fully knew who they were anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and good-looking people, if that's not enough solid advice for you, here's one more piece of good advice for you.
Remember Mitchell Davis?
There's an unexpected surprise. Why don't you tell me about your second time?
Just stick with me, all right? Look, Mitch and I were always competing about everything. Who could run the fastest? Who could shoot the most baskets? Who could catch the most flies?
Oh, please, get to it.
One day, Mitch shows up here. He's got a brand new bike. 3-speed, emerald green, speedometer on the handle.
Wait, you had one just like that?
Exactly. That's why Mitch got his. But see, to show me up, his didn't have any training wheels. So, okay, I beg Dad, right? I'm begging him, please take off my training wheels. Well, he tells me I'm not ready. Well, apparently Mitch wasn't either. Because one day we're racing down Oakhurst Drive.
Oh, Dead Man's Hill.
Right. Mitch falls off his bike, slams his head into some garbage cans. And that, my friend, is why Mitchell Davis repeated the 6th grade 11 times.
What does this possibly have to do with me and Topanga moving past kissing?
Cory, sex is like a bike without training wheels. If you try it before you're ready, you're gonna fall off and break your head.
He's not completely wrong.
He's not. As much as a joke as that is, sex prematurely has unforeseen consequences. And I'm sorry, but at 15, Cory does not have the capacity to think through what any of those consequences could be.
Right. And if all else fails, talk to your parents.
Yes. That was a huge failing of Cory on this arena.
The whole episode.
Wait, did you say talk to his parents too?
Yeah, just like it was failing because he didn't talk to his parents the whole
episode, right?
Wait.
And he has parents he can trust.
Right.
So yes, good advice. I think we've covered this subject pretty well.
Yes. So after Cory and Eric are
Ah.
done, Shawn's going to come in through his favorite entrance in the house, the window. He likes the danger. His parents are back in town, and he wants to see if Claire can come stay at his house instead. Because, all fences are mended. We kind of brushed over that Cory let slip that he told Topanga that Shawn had a girl over, and they had a rough go for it. But fences are mended, friends for life. But this is where Shawn finally has to let everything drop. Cards on the table. That Claire's father hits her. And Cory is just really shocked by this because Claire's dad, by all appearances, he's the vice president of a bank. They're a nice family. This is not something that he would expect. And clearly she's very good at hiding anything because none of this, there's no physical signs that he can see at school. From the way the episode's set up, he knows who she is. He's familiar enough with her that they're at least a passing familiarity. He knows her by name. And so there's nothing for him to look at her and see, oh yeah, she's getting roughed up. So he's trying to convince Shawn that they need to go to the police, but Shawn is very insistent that they don't need to, that they can't go to the police. There's a fun little bit later that goes for some levity, but let's talk about this for a minute. Claire's gotten good at hiding any semblance of abuse. And I'll put this to the moms. How easy is it for an abuse victim to be able to hide any outward signs?
Decently easy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Makeup, different clothes.
Long sleeves.
Long sleeves. Crew necks versus V-necks. There's many different ways you can cover up signs of abuse. Physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can see, if they can't cover it up, there will be an excuse of how it happened.
The excuses.
Right.
I'm clumsy.
Yeah.
Oh, I tripped and did this.
Yeah, when Cory takes Claire's coat and sees the bruise on her arm, I walked into my door. Yeah.
And
I know we can't.
The sad part.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the sad part about this is that if now she is going to Shawn and Cory for this help, and there's still signs of physical abuse, and she's gotten really good at hiding it and sneaking out. That means this has been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a strong chance that there's been signs of this abuse towards her, potentially her whole life.
Yeah.
Not that we feel anyone is being abusive towards in our realm, but we've talked openly about some parents around us that we're like, we have to just keep an eye on them. Not that we think that they're going to be, but some of the small things that we've seen through our trainings that make us our senses are high when we're around certain people.
Because people can look like good people.
Right.
We literally had a conversation about this today, unrelated to this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But, people can look like good people. They can look like a good family.
Mm-hmm.
But there may not be good things happening. And it's easier to hide than it should be. And then mentality of people who are being abused can often be, well, it's my fault. I made them do it. I get in their way. But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ever their fault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know you can't share names or even maybe not even specific stories, but in your experience in working with people who may have been through abusive situations, what are some of the things that you would suggest that someone might be on the lookout for a friend that might be going through a situation like this?
I'm here. I'm thinking because
We just talked a lot, so we're gonna let you talk.
I know I feel like I've been talking a lot though. I honestly think it's different between children, teens, and adults. There's going to be different signs for each stage of development. Kids, especially, like teachers are trained to notice if their demeanor changes, if they're acting much different than they used to, or maybe they're not eating, maybe they're not starting to do well in school. Maybe they did great in school, and then all of a sudden they can't concentrate. They're sleeping during the day. That kind of stuff for children. And a lot of high risk factors are like low self-esteem, kind of hiding, putting on big personas to try to hide what's going on at home. Honestly, there's not a one size fits all. What do you think, Sarah?
No, it's definitely not a one size fits all. There's different layers. Like, there's watching for like the physical signs, but those are, as we said, easily covered up. So it's behavioral aspects, like how are they acting? Are they acting out more? Are they doing the opposite? Are they shying themselves away to kind of hide themselves more?
Right.
Behavioral and emotional ways that they're reacting to things. See, you have to be able to pick up sometimes on those small cues that other people might not if they don't know them. But especially as people who know them, like teachers or caregivers or workers or whatever, you have to be able to pick up on some of those small cues that something could be affecting them. Like, are they avoiding people? Are they avoiding certain types of people? Or different trigger things.
Yeah,
Like
I was thinking about
setting
that.
them off, or
different trauma responses.
They're shying away from. Yeah. So there's a whole magnitude of things. It's being aware of the people who you're interacting with, especially those who are most vulnerable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just as a disclaimer, Good Looking People, we are not a psychiatric collective. I mean, we between the four of us, we have some experience, and I mean, my wife has much more credentials than I do, and practices more than I do, much more than I do currently, working with people who struggle with these types of situations. But as I said, it's not a one size fits all situation. But even knowing some of the signs to look for can be beneficial if you suspect that a friend might be going through something rough at home.
And I'll even say a lot on my end. It's because of me being a man. There are a lot of female students I've interacted with who are triggered just by me being a man with authority. just that is enough sometimes to trigger people. And so, you know, you can't help what's going to trigger someone, and you can try to put in safeguards and try to support them. It's one of those unfortunate things of, I'm never going to know fully who has been hurt by someone, but I can do my best to be a supportive being and make it clear of, you can be safe with me, and making sure that I'm never alone with anyone, to make sure that that they can always go to someone else and not just be me that they're dealing with. The thing about teenagers is, a lot of times, if they feel safe and comfortable, they are willing to share. The fact that Claire did not feel comfortable with, say, a Mr. Feeney or a Mr. Turner, could have just meant that she feared that she wouldn't be believed. And especially in the 90s, that is fair.
It's a real thing even today.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the fear of not being believed. Her dad's a bank vice president or whatever. By all means, their family looks perfect from the outside, so why would anybody believe her? And even Shawn spoke to that whenever he was like, I'm just a kid from a trailer park. Why would they believe me?
Yep. And then there's always that fear that if they find out, you're going to get abused more.
The retaliation of it.
Yep.
There's always a chance that she has tried to share with someone in the past, and someone may have looked into it and nothing happened, and it did get worse. We're seeing the tail end of everything, but there's so much life and so many moments that led up to where she is right now. And I do love that the character Claire addresses, I know my dad loves me. I know we're not there yet, but it's confusing, because to her, my dad loves me. I know he does, but he also hits me. He also hurts me. And so that's really heavy. And that's a big reason why we wanted to have this serious tone.
Yeah, as she puts it, I know he loves me, but he just has so much stress and I just get in the way sometimes.
I think it may be a wise choice for us to get into the fact that it is extremely unfortunate, but most likely the people who are going to end up abusing, or a teenager child who's going to be abused by, will probably be their parent or sibling or close family member or close relationship.
Tends to be most frequent in people who you're familiar with,
right?
Or you're comfortable enough with, that you think you're safe,
right? Exactly. And it's so heartbreaking, and we hear stories all the time of situations like this, and it's up for us who try to be good parents and know we're not great, but we're trying our darndest to keep supporting each other and communicating with each other and helping those that don't have good family situations, especially those that look like they should be good but are not good at all.
Well, and teaching our children what to do when they come across, if they come across someone who is being hurt by someone they know.
Yep.
Whether it be parent, friend, boyfriend, sibling, whatever.
So are there some general steps that we can share about taking if we do know of someone who is in an abusive situation?
Well, if it's a teenager, the first thing to do is tell an adult.
Well, yeah, if you're a teenager, you you need to talk to an adult first that you trust.
Mm-hmm.
But as adults,
right? As adults, so if for example, if our children come to us and say, "What can I do? My friend's being hurt," you know, there are certain of us who are mandated reporters. Myself, I know Sarah is. I'm not going to assume for both of you, but
well, they also live in the state of
Oh,
Ohio,
I absolutely am.
which has different rules than Pennsylvania.
it's true.
Yeah.
I just had an assumption, but yeah. So there is a number to call. Honestly, I'll be real with you. I just Googled on my phone, I need to report, and it was the first thing that popped up was an immediate phone number or way to email them. So by that I mean like the national, hold on, what's the exact name of it?
Domestic violence hotline.
Yes,
Oh,
the
you
National
guys
Domestic Violence
you got the
Hotline.
pencil.
There's
and
the
they will-
Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline.
Yeah, that as well.
That's what I was thinking of. But also, as someone who frequently calls the Adult Protective Services of the state of Pennsylvania, or the Older Adult Protective Services of the state of Pennsylvania, those are also agencies for vulnerable persons who are older than child years.
Yeah, that's a great resource. Whatever state you're in that you're listening, they should all have some sort of adult protective services that you could reach out to. And it's really easy to find by Googling it. If you don't know, that's okay. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, they're open 24/7. They also have texting availability, and they will get you to the right place that's more local to your area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to note is that I think it's also very important that if you're the person that's working with someone who's been abused, that you share with them who you are going to tell and walk with them through that process, because they trusted you enough with that information. You don't want to necessarily make them feel like you're going behind their back to tell about them. You want to be upfront about that you are going to be contacting whomever that you need to contact.
Especially if they come to you like Shawn does for Cory in this, I need you to keep this a secret. Can you keep this a secret? You need to be upfront with them that I have to tell someone to protect you, like to get you the help you need.
Right.
It's not making things better, keeping their secret.
Right.
It's only going to make things worse and put them in more danger.
Yeah.
So even though they might be your best friend or, somebody you've known forever or somebody you love, you can't keep this. It's not a secret to keep. Especially as a teenager, I know that's, if there's teenagers listening, I know that's the loyalty thing, and it's ingrained in us from shows and growing up and just being friends. But to be truly loyal to your friend, you need to get them help.
Yeah, keeping them safe.
You can't keep dangerous secrets. And that's one of the things that we try and instill. Like, our kids are younger, but they're safe secrets, and then there's unsafe secrets. The safe secret is what we're buying mommy for Christmas, which we're really bad at keeping that secret. And unsafe secrets are things where people are going to be hurt. So it's teaching our kids the difference. adults.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What about from your guys' end, being the parents of teenagers?
Well, are you looking more for how we interact with them or how we would expect them to interact with the situation?
However you like to respond.
If our kids were to come with us or to come to us with any instance of a friend that they suspected or that they knew, I mean, Kelly is a mandated reporter. She would have to. I'm not, but I would. We would walk them through exactly what needed to happen. We wouldn't let them do it on their own. We'd walk right alongside them every step of the way because we want their friend to be as safe as they can. And like Alan says at the end, it's knowing when to get them the help that they really do need to keep them safe.
I have complicated feelings, I guess, about Alan and Amy and their uses in this episode. I will say, but you brought up the end. I don't mind saying that they found that day a different student's book, which you have to wonder. I mean, a different show, that would be the whole storyline for them of who is this girl, why is this girl's book in our house, and potentially knowing who her father is and why in the middle of the night did she sneak in and then sneak out? Or how did Cory get the book? So I guess questions that would have arisen, and the fact that Cory is not there,
Are you saying you think they should have done more to try and find him?
I'm saying this feels very 90s.
Well,
in that
your
kid's
It does.
not
I'm
there.
like, if he had a
there's not
cell
whole lot you
phone,
can do.
they could have called
right,
him.
he doesn't have a cell phone.
Right. No, I agree with that, because as in my head canon, it's like, well, if our kid's a teenager, they'll have a cell phone. If I find they're not there, I'm texting them, calling them, tracking them. Where are you?
I'm turning on the Find My Phone or Life, whatever.
Oh, it's always on for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm turning on
Hashtag
all the
not a
apps
sponsor.
to find them.
Hashtag not sponsored. Needs
But
to be a
if you're
sponsor.
listening, we would certainly sponsor your product.
Track my
We'd
child.
welcome a sponsorship by your product.
Yes.
LoJack, my kid. I mean, we get, and we do have to remember good-looking people. Just a little public service announcement of our own. We are dealing with a show that is from 1996. This is nearly 30 years ago, and 15-year-olds did not run around with cell phones. Parents were limited in what they could do if they woke up in the middle of the night and found their kid was not home. We do have 3.5 seasons of a relationship between Alan, Amy, and Cory that does have a lot of trust built up. And he has a best friend that this would not be the first time that he disappeared from a house to help with something. I mean, they knew Shawn was hiding in their house in season 1 the day he blew up the mailbox and committed a federal crime. And they were willing to let him stay there, even though Amy beat him in the head with a vacuum cleaner when he was hiding under the bed. But I mean, we have seen up to this point that there is that level of trust between them. So it's not as if we're looking at a show that was made now with the types of character archetypes we have now. Plus, if you give every character in Seinfeld a cell phone in the 1990s, we wouldn't have a show. But let's pan back into the show briefly. In the episode, Cory's going to go to school the next day. He congratulates Shawn successfully. Your plan of saving Claire one night at a time worked for one day. Or one day at a time worked for one day. He pulls her into the classroom, or pulls Shawn into the classroom, and I mean, he's incensed at what Claire's dad did to her, and he is insistent that they need to go to the police. Shawn, of course, doesn't want to because, as Cory puts it, yes, the cops make things worse for you because you're a criminal. You blew up a mailbox. You stole Turner's bike. You're a criminal. They were doing their job. But Claire shows up, and she won't go along with the idea. She'll just lie. And Cory ultimately agrees that, yes, he'll leave the door unlocked. She can come over to his house again tonight and hide out there. He clearly doesn't want that to be the limit, the extent of what the plan is, but he does agree with it. And the next thing we know, he's pounding on Shawn's door in the middle of the night, and he's got Claire in tow, who has a black eye. And this is enough for Shawn to finally realize that hiding her is not enough. And this is the scene where Claire herself finally realizes that there's just a lot going on. And I have watched this episode 4 times this week. I have a hard time making it through this scene myself. I have 3 children, and I can't make it through this scene without watching as a father of my own children. I cannot imagine myself in that situation where I would be the father putting my child through that. And my heart breaks for any child who goes through that. And so to see it put on screen, and I mean, all credit to Ariana. She does a masterful job of pulling off what she's given.
Yeah.
But she finally breaks down, and she can't figure out why her dad doesn't want her, who doesn't love her. And so Shawn and Cory's solution is to put her on a bus out to Vermont because her aunt's got a house out there that Cory's house reminded her of. Which, for a couple of 15-year-olds who aren't willing to go to the cops, half credit. They at least did something to get her away from the house. Didn't think very far. But they get back to Cory's house, and they discover that Alan and Amy are finally onto them. That they're awake, and they have to fill them in on what's going on. And I clipped a lot of this conversation for us.
Hey, guys, if you've got a friend in serious trouble, then the only thing you have to respect is how to get her the right kind of help.
Oh, we took care of that.
Did you?
Did you call the police?
No, we put Claire on a bus to Vermont. She's gonna stay with her aunt who lives there.
It's a real nice place, Dad, with flowers, and it's where she wants to be. So we did the right thing.
Really? What's going to stop her dad from bringing her back?
He's not gonna do that.
Well, who's going to stop him? Are you going to stop him, Shawn? Is her aunt going to stop him? Because the distance is not going to be what stops him.
I'm gonna stop him.
How?
I'm going to the police.
Good. We'll drive you.
Promised Claire I'd take care of her.
No, you really are.
So Shawn's finally going to go to the cops. And it only took Alan and Amy in the middle of the night, well, an hour before they're supposed to be awake, telling him that, hey, your plan's got some holes in it. Yeah.
It's that teenage short-term, like, you know, what is it?
Where you can't see far enough down the path.
Short-term.
Yeah. What's that word? There is a word for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Right. I'm like...
Short-sightedness.
Yeah. Yeah, they can only see what's right in front of them. They got her out, which, yeah. But
they just send her.
how's that? Also, did they call her
It's
aunt?
the middle of the night. I'm going to guess
Like,
they probably
is her
didn't.
aunt expecting her? Like, yeah. Right. I have so many other questions, and it's the
I mean, the heart's in the right place, yes, but they weren't taking the right steps they needed to get her the help that she really needed.
Yeah.
Because as we go ahead.
Well, I think one of the reasons that we if this little boy will let me talk, it's one of the reasons that we had discussed ahead of time of taking a little more of a serious tone, not focusing so much on the jokes and going through it line by line. I know.
This is not.
A lot of the laughs we've had today are more of our nervous laughs as we're trying to get through everything. But this is something that for the good-looking people out there, we want you to know that there are resources, there are people who care, and there are steps to take. And going to the cops can be super scary, which is why there are resources in all of our different feeds of links to those things, I'm assuming, so that way people can get assistance as they need them. And we'll talk more about them too.
Yes.
So, yeah, but I love what Alan did here and Amy.
Yeah, and yes, I so much admire the way that Alan has written here. There's no anger, there's no frustration that's sneaking out. There's merely hearing what the story is and saying, all right, let's do what needs to be done.
These are the long-term consequences for showing them, like having them face the reality of, yeah, you kept her safe for today, but long-term, how has that really helped her? What's going to stop it from happening again?
Yep. Yeah, and we do find out in the tag that Cory and Topanga are reading through a letter from Claire. She did wind up going to live with her aunt. She's in her school. Her dad is in a therapy program, and they may be able to see each other again someday. It's not a typical sitcom ending where dad got the help he needed and they were right back to living a happy family life. They show the reality that this is something that takes time. Whatever help he needed to deal with this. And
they might see each other someday,
if not a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Not near.
Exactly. I mean, this is implied to be at least a couple weeks later. Yeah. And of course, we find out that Cory and Topanga are home alone, and there's grapes on the bed. But Cory just likes grapes. And he finally communicates with Topanga that he's happy with where they are on first base. But they keep using the baseball metaphor, and Cory gets to do his own impression of Sammy Sosa, where baseball has been very, very good to him. So, just to sum up, is there any stone that we left unturned in our conversation through this episode that we might want to reiterate, or that we might have missed when it comes to dealing with abuse or teenage sexuality?
On both fronts, talk to an adult, preferably your parents or an adult you trust.
Indeed.
I'm also very sorry how forthwith and aggressively I forced us into the conversation of sex. We made it very clear to our child, you're not watching this episode, and this also is an episode of the podcast you're not listening to either.
Sorry, Jason. Not for you. Maybe in a few years.
Telegram, Miss Teenager.
But he has seen that one.
Yeah, when you're old enough for that one.
Luckily, Henry's not going to remember this.
No.
Hi, Henry.
Well, if
You can't see me though.
if we can, let's turn over to Tyler. Then we'll hear his deep dives.
People. Am I the only one who read the summer reading list?
I only have really one deep dive because the resources I already sent you guys, I think they're better to go into our show notes so that way people can go to those resources they need to. Because we found stuff on who to call and also about domestic shelters. There is a national resource that you can go to and look around your zip code. So there are a lot of resources out there. And so we'll have those listed. So the only deep dive I'll get into is the compact disc, because that's how Feeney referred to it as, because he's an old man. And hi. So the compact disc, or as most people know it as a CD, young, good-looking people, CDs are what we used to play everything on, and now we don't do that. But it was first manufactured in August of 1982. That's 10 years before me. It was manufactured in Japan. In Japan.
That's my birthday month.
Oh, you turd. CDs gained rapid popularity in the 1990s, and it quickly outsold all other audio formats in the United States in 1991, ending the
Henry for the win.
market dominance of the cassette tape. By 2000, the CD, the CD accounted for 92.3% of the entire market share in regards of music sales, and the rise of hi, what are you doing? MP3s, iTunes, and cellular phones really diminished the importance of the CD and its long dominance. I am a professional. We will get through this. It was developed by Sony. It's okay. So it's been around for about 41 years at this point. I will say the interesting thing about CDs now is you can't really buy laptops anymore that comes with a CD player. Those used to be standard, and that's no longer the case. My current laptop I have to get an additional little thing that I have to hook it into and get another app. Right. And that's how I can play a DVD on here. I can't play it normally. So just those little interesting development and as we go along. Now, I could not find anything about the
same here.
The multi-track CD players, but just the best way to put it is you have to play it on something. CD players, the boombox, all those things play the music for you. So those things came around the same exact time. Oh my gosh, our animals are going at each other between underneath the door. This has been our wild deep dives. Hi.
Ours is barking like crazy.
All right. Well, let's very briefly talk about what we learned then.
You know anything about the Odyssey? Huh? Did I say you could talk?
I didn't teach you that.
My friend Mr. Matthews will lead the discussion.
Do I have to draw you a picture?
Yes, draw us a picture. Ladies, what did you learn this week?
I mean, I don't know that I learned that.
Other than boys are horny when they're 15.
It's just a reiteration of the importance of communication. Communication between, especially partners.
What are you doing?
There's a dog hair.
I know, but don't touch the mic because now you're messing with the audio.
I didn't touch the mic. I touched the dog hair above the mic. Henry touched the mic. Also, communication with your parents when you're a teenager, and just the importance of how can you really help a friend in trouble, and communication.
Yeah.
Communication. Mm-hmm.
My turn. I'm supposed to share what I learned.
Yes.
I learned that Claire was in Jurassic Park.
She does look, now that she also looks like the girl that was in the My Date with the President's Daughter. That's what I mumbled to you, but I don't think it's... Yeah, I don't think that's her, but she looks like her. Yes.
Yes. I thought the same thing, Sarah. It's not her.
Not her.
Yeah, it reminded me
of her, too.
What'd you learn, Brett?
All right. Tyler?
You're on the same time.
I was reminded just how vigilant as a father that I need to be, whether it's for the sake of my children or for their friends.
I will echo that, but in the realm of someone working with teenagers, remembering that you have to keep an eye on them and pay attention to the way that they act and what is abnormal for them. I'm not blaming Turner or Feeney or any other teachers at John Adams High, but there's always a chance that Feeney had some suspicion, but she never went to him and he couldn't do anything about it. So, and they're really your hands are really tied on a lot with the school system and trying to report there and the complications that can come. So, just in general of making sure we're keeping track and remind of our responsibilities, I guess. I'm a good dad.
Mm-hmm. All right. So last big item of the night for the ladies.
I'm right?
No, you're exactly right.
So am I done with my education? Can I go?
As our guests, we'll let you take the first swing at grading this episode. Moms, what do you grade this episode?
It's a pretty solid episode. It's not one of my favorites just because I don't watch TV too half the time because I want to deal with serious issues. I want to laugh. But it's a very solid episode, and I think it does what it needs to be done. So I'm going to give it an A-.
Oh, great. Okay, go to Mommy.
I agree with Sarah. I was going to give it an A- as well. It is definitely not an episode I would watch over and over again as one of the ones in the series. But I think it was well done. I think it definitely spoke to teenagers in the 90s, and it still carries that same message today. I'm thankful we have more ways of reporting and more avenues to get help for people that need it.
Indeed.
I'm going to give it an A+. This truly is one of the first, this is not your average episodes that they do. And this show is really good at doing those. And I give a lot of credit to the guest star for her portrayal in this and the complications for her. God bless you. God bless you. And I think, with all the faults of Cory for what happened with him in Topanga, the fact that the moment he understood what was going on, he became the version of himself he needed to be to help her. And I think he tried to do everything he could in his mind to benefit her and to help her and to honor his friendship with Shawn. And, things did wrap up in the 22 minutes, as it always does in this show, but it didn't feel like everything is peachy roses. It feels like there was time given for some reconciliation and work that needs to be done. And we don't see them again, but the guys did the right thing by listening to Al and Amy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll give it a solid A. I echo a lot of what you said. The only thing that knocks it down from an A+ for me is for a show that has built up this relationship between Cory and his parents. It took him too long to go to them in what should have been a message of going to an adult being such an important part of that message. And so that's really the only knock on it for me. And just a side note of information, when this episode aired first time, at the end of the episode, they had a short clip of Ben, Danielle, and Ryder delivering a public service announcement about reporting abuse. And when it first went into syndication, there was an announcement for the National Child Abuse Hotline that was delivered by Ryder Strong. But in the advent of streaming, they've done away with that.
That's a shame.
There's nothing.
It should still be there,
which I think is a failing on Disney's part. They really should still have something there.
It's okay. We're almost done.
So that's all we've got for this episode. I do have a couple of dad jokes. A little something fun. Did you know that there's a breed of dog that gets sad when you feed it cantaloupe?
No.
It's called a melancholy. And in honor of Monday, this week, my son asked me, "Dad, can you tell me what a solar eclipse is?" I looked at him and I said, "No, son."
Very nice.
That's so dumb.
Your delayed reaction on that is something else.
That's why it's a dad joke.
That's what a dad joke is. Well, thank you, good-looking people, for sticking around for that insight of the night. Dad jokes are dumb. You can reach us at dadsmeetworld@gmail.com if you have anything to add to the discussion, or if you just like to let us know that it moved you in some way. And you can find us on social, across socials, at Dads Meet World, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Yes, X is Twitter. At Dads Meet World. And until next time, we'll see you. Good looking.
You know, how can I learn so much every week and still be so stupid? I want to be normal, spud!
Dads Meet World is a production of Head First Studios. Head First Studios. Tell your story. Welcome back.
You're probably going to edit out us. Hold on. You might want to edit out us laughing, because I definitely could hear you guys having the same conversation we had. So let's start over with these Dads Meet World. They want you to take the roles. Brett. I keep forgetting there's a delay, so you try to talk and I'm like trying to cue you in, and so sorry, you're good. You're off the rails. Yeah, they are.
Have fun editing.
It's a good
this,
thing
honey.
we're doing this a week in advance. It gives plenty of time.
Our editors are going to kill us.
I think it was just a reiteration of the importance of communication